keep our children safe, given over 3,000 armed forces personnel in Wales a pay rise, and expanded the Valour programme for veterans. That's the difference between us and Plaid, Mr Speaker. We're getting on with the job.
Daisy Cooper, Liberal Democrat, spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. A few months ago, I met farmers in Merthyr Kinnog in Brecon and Radnorshire who warned me about the growing pressures that they were facing. Since then, Trump's reckless war with Iran has sent fertiliser prices soaring by up to 45% and red diesel up to 30%. Does the Minister accept that unless urgent action is taken, higher costs for Welsh farmers will ultimately mean higher food prices for families across Wales and the UK?
And I thank the Honourable Lady for her question. She will know that red diesel now has been slashed to its lowest rate in over 20 years. We protected farming budgets. The trade deals we have signed have all helped farmers, and we are looking at all the measures that we can do to improve and tackle the cost of living and the impact of the Iran war, which we did not want to get involved in, which we decided not to, despite the protestations of some parties in this House. We are making sure that the economic impact is mitigated.
Jill Furness.
Question number 2, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
With your permission, Mr Speaker, I will answer question 2 and 9 together. Creating high-quality jobs across Wales is a priority for this Labour government. That is why we're backing major growth sectors across the country, £2.5 billion for small modular reactors at Wilver, supporting at least 3,000 jobs, alongside new AI growth zones in North and South Wales, expected to create more than 8,000 jobs.
The UK Labour government is investing across the UK in initiatives that are creating jobs and fuelling economic growth, such as Parkwood Springs and special melted projects in my constituency of Sheffield, right outside in Hillsborough. Will the Minister give us an extra update on the House on the difference UK government growth funding is having in Wales? Thank you.
Minister.
I thank the honourable member for her question. The UK government growth funding has been transformational across Wales, delivering jobs in local communities across all parts of the country. Just last week, we announced £134 million for the Cardiff Capital Region, which has already created 7,000 jobs and is fast on its way to delivering 25,000 jobs for the region. This latest investment will help cement Wales's place at the forefront of technology and innovation, helping even more businesses to thrive and grow the Welsh economy.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Universities in Wales and Scotland are engines of job creation through the crucial role they play in fostering innovation. Would my honourable friend the Minister please update the House on what the UK Government is doing to fuel innovation in Welsh universities?
Minister.
I thank the member for his questions. Universities are a core part of our industrial strategy, as countries that lead in research and innovation also lead in growth and investment. Wales's universities play a unique role right across Wales, building and investing in our industries and businesses of the future. And as Minister in the Wales office, I am bringing all the Welsh universities together in collaboration to help maximise R&D funding, deliver stronger results and ensure that that impact reaches the communities that need it most.
Susan Berry.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I have repeatedly asked the Government to publish its assessment of Scotland's nuclear potential, so far without success. So perhaps the Minister can help me in the meantime. What does she regard as the greatest benefit of the Wilfa site in Wales? The long-term skilled jobs, the local investment it draws in, or the contribution to our energy security? And does she believe that Scotland would be able to share in those same benefits?
Wales.
Look, there's absolutely huge benefits from we have right across North Wales, Wilver, expected to support 3,000 jobs across North Wales. This is a generational commitment to the future of clean energy right across the country.
Alex Easton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does the Minister agree that a strong and effective UK internal market is critical to creating jobs in Wales? And will she work with Cabinet colleagues to secure frictionless East-West trade so that the businesses in Wales and Northern Ireland can more easily supply each other in key sectors such as manufacturing, food and construction?
Minister.
Thank him for his question. Absolutely. Collaboration, working together. We are creating tens of thousands of jobs right across Wales. Look, our Welsh free ports, our investment zones have the potential to deliver at least 25,000 new jobs in Wales. Our generational commitment to modernise Welsh Rail will bring 12,000 jobs in Wales. This is about a collaborative effort right across the United Kingdom to help and support Welsh communities, but communities right across the UK.
Ms Davis, Shadow Secretary of State.
Boarded up windows, derelict buildings and deserted towns, increasingly common on high streets in Wales, highlighted by North Wales Live and their readers. Our hospitality sector is also being hollowed out thanks to Plaid Cymru and the last Welsh Labour government's disastrous tourism tax. The Conservative and Unionist Party believes this tax should be urgently scrapped to support the around 150,000 people employed in Wales in this crucial sector. Mr Speaker, does the Minister now regret her party's decision to impose this tax, and will she join with me in calling on the new Welsh Government to scrap it?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, I'll take no lectures from the party opposite and the honourable member when her party presided over completely unprecedented wage stagnation and businesses took blow after blow after blow, the worst wage growth of performance of any decade since Napoleonic times, to be more specific. From our side, the Chancellor has announced just this year, this last week, the Great Welsh Summer Savings, or Great Summer Savings Scheme, a reduction of VAT from 20% to 5% over the summer for families to help enjoy the summer and use hospitality venues. This will boost local spend and boost the local economy.
Ms Savile Roberts.
And the Secretary of State had some cheek digs earlier on, but Wales has had 27 years of Labour and less than 6 weeks of a Plaid Cymru government. We've got work to do and we're getting on with it. The Port Talbot Steelworks fire caused huge damage, but not a single penny of Labour's £2.5 billion steel fund has been guaranteed for steel in Wales. Instead, millions are being spent from this fund to support steel at Scunthorpe, leaving Welsh workers fearing they've been pushed aside. So will her government stand up for Welsh interests and guarantee a fair share of the steel fund to all steel sites in Wales?
Minister.
Well, our steel strategy will revitalise the UK steel sector, restoring domestic production, 50% of which will come from Wales, securing supply for key sectors and national infrastructure. And I really hope that the minority Plaid Welsh Government will support this work in supporting our Welsh steelworkers.
Ms Savile Roberts.
I'm interested to hear the Minister's response, but she is muddying the waters here because that isn't in relation to the steel fund. What we're talking about here is specifically the steel fund and the contribution that that will make to Wales, and we know that that money is going towards Scunthorpe. But in other matters, of course, we are, next week, a decade after the EU referendum, and the promised Brexit dividend is still a fantasy unicorn. The Welsh economy is at least £4 billion smaller, and exports are down £1.1 billion. Over the same period, Northern Ireland, still in the single market, remember, has seen GVA per head grow 20% faster than Wales. We see the damage and we know the solution. Wales, of course, very much an exporting economy. Surely she knows that the right thing to do by Wales and the rest of the UK is to rejoin the single market and the customs union.
Well, I thank the member opposite for her question. And I am proud that this government is resetting our relations with European partners to improve our economic and security cooperation following Brexit. And the historic first UK-EU summit last year marked that turning point. And striking a deal on bills, good for borders and good for jobs. And our focus now is on driving that forward and delivering a very strong EU-UK relationship.
Ruth Jones, Chair of the Select Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for her responses. I want to raise the issue of young people not in education, employment or training. Now, we know the party opposite failed our Welsh young people for 14 years, so I'm really pleased this Welsh Labour government is investing £2.5 billion. This Labour government is investing £2.5 billion into the Youth Guarantee. Can the Minister tell me how many Welsh young people will benefit from this scheme?
Minister.
Well, I thank the member for her question. There are far too many young people without education, employment or training, and that is why we have committed to a youth guarantee to grant young people right across the country, the UK and Wales, the choice to learn or to earn, backed by £820 million of funding. And this week it was announced there'll be 7 more youth hubs for Wales, helping young people build those critical skills and find jobs. Those measures will be life-changing opportunities for young people, significantly reversing the increase we inherited from the party opposite of those who aren't in education, training or employment.
Joseph.
Question number 3, please, Mr. Speaker.
Stay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With your permission, I'll answer questions 3, 5 and 12 together. Wales has a crucial role to play in our national security. Wales is home to a dynamic defence SME base, as well as major companies such as Connecticut, BAE Systems, Airbus, General Dynamics and Thales. This increased defence budget will support thousands of jobs in communities across Wales, help grow our economy and keep the UK safe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the King's speech, the Labour government made clear that its key priorities are national security, economic security and energy security. And all these 3 priorities have one thing in common, and that is the promise of jobs for communities across the whole of the UK. The Defence Growth Deal stands to unlock some 50,000 new jobs across the UK, including thousands of well-paid jobs and skilled jobs in Wales. So would the Secretary of State tell the House how defence spending is having a positive impact in Wales?
Can I thank my honourable friend for his question? The Welsh defence sector is central to the security of the United Kingdom, and I'm proud that our defence growth deal, backed by £50 million of UK government investment, will transform our nation into a centre for defence innovation, creating highly skilled jobs and driving economic growth across the country. And it's been a real pleasure, Mr. Speaker, to see firsthand the opportunities that the defence sector is bringing to people and communities in Wales, such as the talented young local apprentices starting out on their careers at General Dynamics in Oakdale that I recently met.
Chris Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. National security is the #1 priority of this UK government, and businesses in Redditch are proud to support our armed forces. Would the Secretary of State agree with my assessment that at this time of global uncertainty, it is more important than ever that parties across this House champion the value of our union and our nation standing together against global threats?
My honourable friend is absolutely right, and this government is undertaking the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. That's because we know that this increase creates not only a defence dividend, but a union dividend too. It'll boost prosperity, create high-skilled jobs and strengthen security for working people in every corner of the UK, whilst at the same time bolstering the resilience of our defence industrial base. So my honourable friend is right to say that every nation and government of the United Kingdom should stand together and play its part in our national security.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This government has a NATO-first approach, meaning that our strength is reinforced by global allies so that in an increasingly dangerous world, the UK will not stand alone. It is vital that colleagues from across this House and governments from across the UK remain united in this approach. Will the Secretary of State provide an update on any discussions that she's had with the new Welsh Government regarding their contribution to the UK's national security?
Can I thank him for his question? The Strategic Defence Review reinforces the importance of close collaboration between all governments on defence, particularly where key levers such as skills and planning are devolved. And I can confirm to my honourable friend that I've written to the Finance Cabinet Secretary in the new minority Plaid Welsh Government on Wales's role in the defence of the UK. I regret to inform the House that the Minister did not respond to my request for confirmation that the Welsh Government will support the UK's full membership of NATO. But I can assure the House that the UK Labour Government is wholeheartedly committed to our defence and security.
Jim Shannon.
Mr Speaker, can I thank the Minister very much for her answers. The increase in spending for Wales, of course, is something that should encourage us all, as it does across this great United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. When it comes to the defence spending and the extra money, does the Honourable Lady agree that that underlines the issue of the importance of being a member of this Great Britain, this team of United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland? Otherwise, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland all have advantages of the Union. When it comes to the Union, does the Honourable Lady agree as well that for our friends, and they are my friends who are in front of me, that they should also recognise that being part of this United Kingdom of Great Britain brings benefits, and that's one of these things today?
Can I thank the honourable gentleman? I couldn't agree with him more, and as I said earlier, this increase in defence spending creates not only a defence dividend but a union dividend too, and that's why every nation and every government in this United Kingdom should stand together and play its part in our national security.
Mims Davis, Shadow Secretary of State.
Inadequate, failing and unable. Those were the damning words used by the former Defence Secretary after his dramatic resignation to describe this Labour government's approach to defence. The defence industry in Wales is vital for all our defence and for local jobs. Will the Secretary of State acknowledge why, after a recent defence visit, the Wales office used the incorrect figure on X of a £270 billion increase in defence spending this Parliament? Was this deleted, Mr Speaker, because it was disinformation and factually inaccurate?
So state.
Mr Speaker, I'm reassured to hear the party opposite finally acknowledging the importance of defence spending. This government is undertaking the biggest sustained increase to defence spending since the Cold War. We're doing that to keep Wales and the UK safe and to create thousands of new well-paid jobs. Her party left office having hollowed out our armed forces, leaving military homes in a disgusting state, so I'm glad she's finally learned the lessons of previous Tory failures.
Votes.
Question number 6, please, Mr Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Mr Speaker, the UK Government is strengthening the Welsh economy, helping businesses grow and supporting thousands of good, well-paid jobs, whether that's nuclear energy in Wilver, offshore wind in Port Talbot, or connecting our communities with the £14 billion pipeline of rail projects. This Government is building a stronger Welsh economy for generations to come.
Thank you for her answer. And Monmouthshire's high streets welcome the £1.5 million Pride in Place funding, especially Monmouth, after November's devastating floods. I've recently written to the landlord of 20 Mono Street, or as it's more commonly known, the Pigeon Poop building, as part of my campaign to fill empty shops. But we need deeds, not words. The commissions and the task force that Clyde say they're planning just won't cut it. So will the Secretary of State make representations to the Welsh Government that they need to act on our high streets as soon as possible, not just establish quangos?
Can I thank my honourable friend, because she's absolutely right. Regenerating our high streets and town centres is vital to creating jobs and supporting local businesses, restoring pride in our communities. It's why we're investing over £300 million in Pride in Place funding for Wales, alongside over £500 million through the new Local Growth Fund. And it's vitally important that this funding, which will be delivered by the Plaid Minority Welsh Government, is operational as quickly as possible. I've written twice to the Welsh Government Minister responsible about how we can get this funding out to communities, and I look forward to his eventual response.
Mims Davis, Shadow Secretary of State.
The previous Welsh Labour government spent more than £100 million developing plans for the M4 Relief Road, only to scrap the project before construction began. Congestion at the Bringlass tunnels continues to cause significant delays, hampering economic growth. The previous Conservative UK government offered funding to back this crucial scheme. Mr. Speaker, will the Minister urge her colleagues, the Secretary of State, to make a similar offer to the new Welsh Government? And does she regret her party's decision to cancel this vital project in the first place?
This government has delivered the biggest financial settlement for the Welsh Government in devolution history. Nearly £6.5 billion more spending power for public services in Wales. That includes transport. This contrasts with the activities of her government, who starved our public services in Wales of funding through austerity.
Harpley Chapel. Hang on, Minister.
The Prime Minister has announced a generational funding commitment to Welsh Rail and a pipeline of projects worth up to £14 billion. This long-term plan will transform connectivity right across Wales, delivering at pace, building on the strong start of at least £445 million of investment already secured at the spending review.
Harpley Chapel.
And it's brilliant to see you with your Yorkshire Rose on today as well. The UK Labour government are investing in our railways to boost economic growth right across the country. In my constituency, we are seeing continued investment through the Trans-Pennine route upgrades in Huddersfield. Can the Minister set out what rail upgrades are coming to Wales and in particular how this will deliver economic growth and boost employment across the nation?
Minister.
I thank the member for her excellent question. We have agreed, as I've said, £14 billion long-term plan for Welsh Rail, with work starting immediately. That spans 43 projects at every corner of Wales, unlocking around 12,000 jobs. New stations, faster and more reliable trains will connect people with communities and jobs right across Wales, benefiting the whole of the UK.
We now come to questions to the Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Lawrence Sullivan.
Question number 1, please, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've been asked to reply on behalf of the Prime Minister, who's attending the G7 summit in Evian. May I first pay tribute to two giants of the Labour Party, Roy Hattersley, who was a formidable deputy leader who never stopped fighting for a more equal and fair society. And we also remember our beloved colleague, Jo Cox, and honour her memory for working to bring our communities together, celebrating the decency and the compassion that defines this country. I also want to remember the 72 lives lost at Grenfell Tower. The legacy of that appalling tragedy must be a safe, secure home for everyone in this country. And finally, let me congratulate Scotland on their first win at the Men's World Cup for 36 years. That's what happens, Mr. Speaker, when your captain signs for Spurs. And can I wish England the best of luck for their first match this evening. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties to this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Can I associate myself with the Deputy Prime Minister's remarks and pay tribute to Jo Cox? I also wish England's men's team all the best tonight. May they follow the Lionesses and Scotland men's winning team's winning example. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that our town and local centres, particularly our independent small businesses, are the lifeblood of our economy? And can he confirm that this Labour government to do what it takes to unlock the potential of our local economies, such as supporting mine and my honourable friends, the member of the Thurrock's campaign to restore the Gravesend-Tilbury ferry that was cut by the Conservatives?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I congratulate my honourable friend on her campaign to restore Gravesend to Tilbury ferry. I agree that town centres are the heart of our communities and we're determined to help them thrive. our high street strategy, backed by over £300 million worth of investment, will build on our work to rejuvenate high streets across the country. We're also putting power into the hands of local communities through our flagship Pride in Place programme, and that includes £1.5 million for Gravesham. Her local council can make use of the integrated transport funding for local priorities, including ferry services, and I know ministers will be happy to help.
We come to the Shadow Secretary of State, Claire Coutinho, acting for the official opposition.
On behalf of this side of the House, can I extend our condolences to the families of Joe Cox and Roy Hattersley. I know how much pain we felt on these benches when we lost Sir David Amos, and we share their pain today as well. I also pay tribute to those who lost their lives in the Grenfell Tower fire, and I'd also like to congratulate Scotland on their stunning win and wish England the very best of luck for tonight. Now, Mr. Speaker, it is a great privilege to be standing here with one of the few survivors of Labour's original cabinet, who hasn't resigned on principle or been sacked in disgrace. I feel honoured. So can he start by telling me this? Why is the Labour government happy for Britain to get its oil and gas from Russia or Qatar, but not from Aberdeen?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I welcome the Shadow Energy Secretary to the dispatch box. It's always good to hear from someone who was the heart of the Treasury during the biggest fall in living standards on record. The Children's Minister in government that plunged hundreds of thousands of children into poverty, and the Energy Secretary who showed an unwavering commitment to the cause of net zero, even though she's now forgotten that. Don't believe everything you read in the papers. The Prime Minister and the Energy Secretary have been discussing cutting bills by over £100. We've got our Warm Homes plan lifting millions of families out of fuel poverty and securing enough energy projects to power 23 million homes. She was the Energy Secretary who left our country exposed to global fossil fuel markets. We're delivering clean energy security.
Mr. Speaker, bills came down £500 under me. They've gone up £300 under these guys. And this is nonsense. His party are banning new oil and gas licences in the North Sea. And these guys over here, they're no better, because this is the same policy that the SNP championed for years. It is pointless virtue signalling, and it's destroying well-paid jobs. So can he tell the House how many jobs have been lost in Aberdeen since Labour came to power?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I remember when the Energy Secretary championed net zero. She said in 2023, we cannot prosper, nor can our children flourish if we don't decarbonise energy. The Tories used to believe this 3 years ago. Now she's forgotten because they're desperately chasing reform, and we know it. Over 700 jobs were lost during the last 10 years when they were in power. Production fell 75% over the last 25 years. We've secured over £900 billion worth of investment to support more jobs by taking control with renewables, and there are over 100,000 jobs in Scotland supported by clean power. We're building on that, led by the Great British Energy, headquartered in Aberdeen.
Mr. Speaker, let me help him out. 1,000 people are losing their jobs every month in places like Aberdeen South because of Labour's policies. They say those oil and gas workers can get new green jobs, but what they don't say is those salaries pay half as much. So can he tell the House how he would feel if the government forced him to take a 50% pay cut?
Deputy Prime Minister.
The Honourable Lady used to be an investment banker, and she's got her facts wrong. Oil and gas is coming out of the North Sea 24/7. In the first 3 months of this year, 52 million barrels of oil came out. 44 million barrels equivalent of gas came out. We're not turning off the taps. It's part of a mixed economy. It will support existing oil and gas fields throughout their lifespan, making changes to exploit neighbouring fields. But we do want to create more jobs, and that's why we're going to continue to invest in renewables. She knew this 3 years ago. She's changed her mind because she's chasing them.
Mr. Speaker, I asked him about pay cuts, and they should care, because if the Mayor of Manchester gets his way, I'm pretty sure half the front bench are going to be getting a pay cut pretty soon. Mr. Speaker, this is serious. The world is getting, Mr. Speaker, the world is getting more dangerous. Yet last week, the Prime Minister asked the Energy Secretary to help fund the defence of our country, and he ghosted him. Let me repeat that. The Energy Secretary refused to meet the Prime Minister on a matter of national security. Why hasn't he been sacked?
Prime Minister.
Stop reading the papers, I'd say to the Honourable Lady. I certainly don't like papers. Mr. Speaker, when the Defence Investment Plan is published, it will set out, this is important, it will set out how every government department is contributing to defence, including the Energy Department. We will always put national security first. The party opposite still don't get it. Families worried about their bills going up because of a war in the Middle East, that her leader said she'd jump into feet first.
If everything's so hunky-dory, why did half his defence team quit last week? Mr. Speaker, they won't find the money to keep our country safe, so let's go through some of the things they can find the money for. Millions of pounds to build solar farms in the Congo, tens of millions of pounds on an experiment to dim the sun, and they are turning down £25 billion in tax revenue from the North Sea to please their out-of-control Energy Secretary. Does he really think that any of that is more important than defending our country?
Deputy Prime Minister.
We've said that more spending on defence is our #1 priority in this spending review and the next spending review. But she wants to talk about resignations. Let's just remind ourselves. The Tory Defence Secretary that resigned in the last government, the member for Stone, who was sacked for breaching national security. The Tory Defence Secretary, Michael Fallon, who resigned over sexual harassment. The Tory Defence Secretary who admitted hollowing out the armed force services for 14 years, that was Ben Wallace. We've got a Prime Minister securing jobs and investment in the G7. We've got a Chancellor raising the minimum wage. We've got an Education Secretary cutting costs for childcare. And we've got an Energy Secretary cutting energy bills by over £100. We're proud of that record.
If everything is fine, why is he here? Let's face it, he wasn't here last week, was he? Let's face it, this is a government on life support. And what's their grand plan now? They want to, let me get this straight, they want to make the job-destroying Energy Secretary Chancellor. They want to bring back the former Transport Secretary who resigned for nicking phones. They want to replace him with the former Deputy Prime Minister who resigned for dodging taxes. These are all pointless distractions. So here's a better idea. Why don't they cut welfare, fund defence, make energy cheap, and back the North Sea?
Deputy Prime Minister.
It's thin gruel. It's very thin gruel, Mr. Speaker. I'm here like she is because I'm standing in for the Prime Minister and the leader of my party. I'm proud to serve this Prime Minister. I'm proud of what this Labour government is delivering. More rights for working people, the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation. the biggest boost to defence spending since the Cold War, and lifting more children out of poverty in a single term than any British government in history. The party opposite can make all the noise they want. They don't want to talk about the economy because it's growing. They don't want to talk about the NHS because waiting lists are falling, and they don't want to talk about immigration because they lost control of our borders and net migration is down under us 82%. They had their chance, they blew it. We're building a stronger, fairer Britain.
I also want to pay tribute to Jo Cox and her family and the commitment in her name that we tackle division and extremism, because we saw extremism play out on the streets of Belfast last week, a pogrom, families burnt out based on the colour of their skin, health workers stopped for ID by masked thugs, small businesses ordered to close, and many minorities are still living in fear after a list of their addresses was circulated widely online. They deserve more than sympathy and warm words. They deserve to know that governments are serious about confronting hatred on and offline. The UK Government and the Northern Ireland Executive spend millions each year on programmes intended to tackle paramilitarism, but decades after the Troubles, individuals linked to loyalist paramilitaries had a role in directing and fuelling the disorder last week, including menacing a senior journalist on tape. Will the UK Government commit to reviewing how the Northern Ireland Executive is gripping or failing to grip paramilitarism, and will they ensure that public money never reaches individuals or groups who fuel, orchestrate or benefit from intimidation and hate?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I join her in utterly condemning the violence? People are right to feel sickened by the sight of people being burnt out of their homes because of the colour of their skin. That is racism, and, Mr. Speaker, those responsible will face the full force of the law. We must never go back to 1950s Britain, where my father arrived to signs saying no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. We are focused on bringing people together, and that includes providing a further £24 million to help tackle paramilitarism, acting to tackle those inciting hatred online, and our social cohesion plan is about bringing our communities together. I'm happy to work with all parties in that endeavour.
Daisy Cooper, Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself and my party with the Deputy Prime Minister's tribute to Jo Cox? We extend our condolences to her friends and family and to all those of Roy Hattersley as well. And can I join with the Deputy Prime Minister in remembering the horrific tragedy of Grenfell, and that those families still are awaiting justice? Mr. Speaker, can I congratulate all those named in the King's Birthday Honours List, congratulate Scotland and wish good luck to England for this evening. Mr. Speaker, the Right Honourable Member for Rawmarsh and Conisbrough is respected across this House. When he says that he was forced to make decisions that could make the country less safe, we should all take heed. It is now becoming clear that the Treasury's refusal to consider new ways of funding defence is undermining our national security. So will the Deputy Prime Minister join with us to make the case in government for new defence bonds, which could raise £20 billion over 2 years to defend our country?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I say to the Honourable Lady that we do believe that we should work with our allies to join up defence procurement and funding. That's why we're exploring the most effective mechanisms for multilateral cooperation. And of course, it's a topic of discussion for the Prime Minister at the G7.
Daisy Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're pleased to hear that the government is looking at this, but they need to act far quicker. Mr. Speaker, it is now more than 5 years since the Prime Minister originally set his famous red lines on Europe when he was in opposition. No customs union, no single market. But since then, the world has changed. Putin has launched a war on our continent, an unreliable Donald Trump has returned to the White House, and here at home the cost of living has got worse and worse. So does the Deputy Prime Minister agree that the government should rip up those red lines now Or is that just another job to be left to the next Prime Minister?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I was proud to be the Labour Foreign Secretary that returned to the meeting of European Foreign Secretary and work alongside my colleague in the Cabinet Office to ensure that we were at that summit, and it was successful last year. And I've just confirmed the next summit will take place on the 22nd of July. Our red lines remain, but we're focused on an SPS deal to cut prices on the shelves, a youth experience scheme, and cutting red tape for exporters.
McNally.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I'm sure the whole House will want to congratulate Sir Kevin Sinfield on which is fitting recognition for his work on motor neuron disease. Another champion fighting for a cure for MND is my constituent Mark Somerville, who I've raised at Prime Minister's questions in the past. Diagnosed in 2023, Mark fights with remarkable resolve and courage. I'm supporting Mark and his foundation in pushing for a new national MND strategy with an emphasis on finding effective treatments, enhancing access to trials and accelerating novel drug discovery. Will my right honourable friend meet with me to discuss this further so we can work to find a cure for this horrific condition?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I join him in congratulating Sir Kevin Sinfield? He's an inspirational fundraiser and a champion for his sport and, of course, for the MND community. And I know that Mark Somerville runs an excellent foundation campaigning on MND in his constituency. We are committed to improving care for people with motor neuron disease. We're looking at the current system and to ensure care is truly focused on the needs of individuals. We're also investing in cutting-edge research, including a world-first clinical trial to test remotely monitored portable ventilators. And I know that the Minister for Care would be happy to meet with him to discuss this further.
Matt Vickers.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Since this government came to office, more than 500,000 businesses have closed. Nearly 1 million young people are without education, employment and training. And graduate recruitment is at an all-time low. These are not just statistics. These are people's lives, people's jobs and people's futures. Can the Deputy Prime Minister tell the House if this is because the government A, hiked business rates and slashed reliefs, B, slammed employers with the jobs tax, C, buried businesses with the Employment Rights Act, or D, all of the above?
We've got the fastest growing economy in the G7. Borrowing is down, and we just signed our 5th major trade deal. But I must say to this Tory Deputy Chairman, yesterday he was on television laughing and joking about the arson attack on the Prime Minister's home, laughing about a firebomb targeting the Prime Minister and his family. Not only that, he joined with promoting conspiracies about the attack and laughed along to demeaning homophobic remarks. He should be ashamed of himself. Absolutely ashamed. My advice to him is to grow up, apologise and do considerably better.
Sarah Owen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Makerfield candidate for reform has disgracefully said, and I quote, "The majority of abortions are for vanity purposes." He described mums, in his words, with their fat bellies pushing prams in their PJs and failed to apologise to national treasure Carol Vorderman for endorsing sexually explicit comments about her. Mr Speaker, this exposes the rank hypocrisy of reform politicians talking tough on Vogue, but in reality having zero respect for women. Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me that reform has a problem with women, further highlighted by seemingly welcoming a woman beater into their fold?
Deputy Prime Minister.
My honourable friend makes a powerful point. The Prime Minister has rightly put tackling violence against women and girls at the heart of this Labour government. By contrast, I've been utterly appalled by what we've heard from the reform candidate in Makerfield, from vile sexist comments to saying Putin was within his rights to invade Ukraine. When the Reform leader was asked about them, his answer was, so what? This speaks volumes about Reform. The only way to stop their politics of grievance is to vote Labour.
Hey, I'm Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I also echo the tribute to Joe Cox, Roy Hattersley and the victims of the Grenfell Tower fire. Mr. Speaker, there are approximately 400,000 private hire and black cab drivers in the United Kingdom, and we rely on each and every one of them to keep our economy moving. It's concerning to hear that this government is letting Uber deploy robotic minicabs across London, with the potential of this being rolled out across the country. Our drivers already face unsafe working conditions, discrimination and low pay, and now they're becoming casualties of this AI drive. At the last general election, British people were promised jobs and better workers' rights. So I ask the Deputy Prime Minister, why is the government pushing an agenda that will drive tens of thousands out of work, and will he arrange for a meeting so we can have a discussion about this matter?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I say to the honourable gentleman, I attended the AI summit in India, and right across the world, all countries and many companies, and certainly tech companies, are at the forefront of this opportunity. Now, you've got to get the governance right, and of course you've got to test and retest to ensure safety, and anything on our roads, of course, would be tested and licensed by the Department for Transport. So I don't think we can stand in the face of innovation.
Debbie Abraham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate myself with the remarks of the Deputy Prime Minister, and also congratulate my constituent, Sir Kevin Sinfield, for all the work all that he does. Mr. Speaker, yesterday marked the 10th anniversary of the murder of our dear friend Joe Cox, and of course our wonderful member for Spen Valley. She was also the wife, daughter and mother, and we must not forget that. Joe's mantra was always that we had more in common than that which divides us. So can my right honourable friend indicate what he thinks he should do, and in fact what we should all do, so that Joe's beliefs and Joe's legacy are always remembered?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I'm so grateful to my honourable friend. We all miss Joe, a dear friend and a valued colleague. 3 years ago, I had the great privilege of opening the Joe Cox More in Common Centre in Huddersfield alongside Joe's sister, the Honourable Member for Spen Valley, and her parents, Jean and Gordon. It was one of the great honours of my life. We all have a duty to live up to the values that Joe stood for. She was a trailblazing campaigner against loneliness and inspired the great get-together taking place this weekend. In the words of the Joe Cox Foundation, holding or attending great get-together in your local area is a simple but powerful way to honour Joe's legacy. Neighbours coming together, differences set aside, communities choosing unity over division, because that is what Joe stood for.
Louis French.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sure we all share the thoughts regarding Joe Cox and her family here today. Mr. Speaker, I know that the Deputy Prime Minister has always struggled with police visibility, even when they are stood behind him. But does he agree with Sir Mark Rowley that London will be even less safe because of this government's police cuts and the decision made last week by Sadiq Khan to block a key contract which will lead to 500 less frontline officers here in police and will make us all less safe?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I'm hugely grateful for the work of the Home Secretary and the previous Home Secretary for putting neighbourhood policing back at the heart of our communities and extra policing across the country. We remember on this side the decisions by Boris Johnson to cut policing across the country. I'll take no lectures from the honourable gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A film called The People's Emergency Briefing is being shown in communities up and down the country. I recently attended a screening in Wirksworth. There's another one next week in Bakewell. The film educates us and reminds us of the climate emergency that we're all facing. And yet, inexplicably, the party opposite has basically given up on the climate, and Reform continue to act like modern-day flat earthers, refusing to accept science and refusing to accept the bleeding obvious. So, can the Deputy Prime Minister please assure me that this Labour government will continue to do everything it can to combat man-made climate change?
Very grateful to my friend for campaigning on this issue, and I'm very proud that this government has restored the UK's position as a global leader on climate action. That includes ambitious targets to reduce climate emissions, restore nature and seizing the opportunities of clean renewable power. The net zero economy now supports over 1 million jobs and secures over £105 billion for our economy. That's proof that tackling climate and growing the economy can go hand in hand. Those aren't the words, Mr. Speaker, of me. They're from the Baroness Theresa May in the past fortnight. The Tories used to believe in this agenda, but they've forgotten because they're chasing reform.
Bradley Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if I can associate myself with the tributes paid to Jo Cox. Mr. Speaker, in 2 weeks' time, new steel quotas and 50% tariffs will come into force, which industry have said will cost jobs. UKF Steel in my constituency have been clear. They have said that without a change of course, they will almost certainly cease trading before the end of the year, and that will cost 50 jobs in my constituency. Last week I attended a cross-party round table, and it was clear that my concerns are also shared by many Labour MPs who are concerned about job losses and further deindustrialisation. What action is being taken at the very top of government to mitigate the effects of what will be an imminent but avoidable economic disaster?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, he raises a serious issue, and he might have forgot that this House legislated emergency measures to save steel across our country, and of course we will continue to do more. And I would say to him that of course it was on the agenda for the Prime Minister at the G7.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's great to see the NHS moving forward with a reduction in waiting lists and improving relations with our junior doctors, my fellow colleagues. But in order to keep our NHS working well in the long term, we must get serious about prevention. Every year, more than 30,000 deaths in our country are attributed to poor air quality. Ella Kitty Deborah's mum knows this all too well. Her little girl was just 9 years old when she died as a direct result of air pollution. 70 years on from the 1956 Clean Air Act, will the Deputy Prime Minister now support a much-needed update of this essential law to protect the future of our NHS and to keep our children healthy?
Prime Minister.
Well, thank my honourable friend for raising this. She makes a powerful point as someone who's worked for many years in public health. I've met Ella's family, including her mother, Rosamond. Her death was a tragedy, and this is an issue close to my heart. Through our Environmental Improvement Plan, we're taking action to cut pollutants. That includes new targets to cut exposure to harmful particles by a third and reforming industrial permitting to reduce emissions. A Minister will be very happy to meet with her and discuss this further.
George Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As an Eastbourne boy born and bred, I can tell the Deputy Prime Minister that Eastbourne Pier is an iconic part of our heritage, an iconic part of our local economy, an iconic part of me. I literally have it tattooed on me, and I can show the Deputy Prime Minister afterwards. But on a serious note, the residents of Eastbourne have become concerned for the pier's future after a company connected to the pier has fallen into liquidation, and indeed maintenance costs of piers across the country have been sky high. So will the Deputy Prime Minister back my Protect Our Pier campaign and meet with me to discuss emergency measures to safeguard our pier for the future?
Prime Minister.
What can I say to my honourable friend that I never thought I'd get a request to look at his tattoos, but I know that Eastbourne Pier is a much-loved, iconic local landmark. I believe he's meeting the Minister of Communities to discuss this campaign. I'm pleased we've allocated 20 million in Pride and Place funding to regenerate Eastbourne. It was one of the first seaside towns I visited as a young child. And this summer, his constituents will be able to enjoy their day at the pier for less with our great British summer savings, with free bus travel for kids, cheaper meals and cheaper tickets to amusement parks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thames Water's headquarters are local to my town of Reading, but it's their distant creditors who are really in charge. Investors should be rewarded for success, but they should pay for their failures. That is why I strongly welcome the government's objections to the current creditors deal. Under any deal or special administration regime, the company will be restructured. The question is whether that restructuring will be done only in the interests of senior creditors or with customers and the environment in mind. Will the Deputy Prime Minister tell us whose side he is on?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for her dedicated work on this? I'm on the side of the people who elected us to clean up our rivers, our lakes and our seas. I'm on the side, and this government is on the side, of consumers paying the price for years and years of failure by them on the opposite side. We don't want Thames Water customers to have to pick up the bill for the company's failures. We stand ready for all eventualities. Labour has already blocked bonuses and introduced criminal sanctions for polluting water bosses, and we will go further by creating a new powerful regulator to hold all companies to account and clean up our waterways.
Can I say to the Deputy Prime Minister, he's looking very Prime Ministerial today, and he certainly might got my vote if he decides to run for Labour leader on Friday. Trust me, it's a deliberate ploy. Trust me. On a serious note, Stoke Heath is a small rural settlement in the Wrekin constituency in Shropshire. Over the last few hours, I've been informed, I think very lately, by the way, that 121 asylum seekers will be going into that settlement. That is a 35% increase in the population over a matter of weeks. That's equivalent to 44,000 asylum seekers coming into the Deputy Prime Minister's constituency. Whilst this is a tolerant nation and a compassionate nation and an understanding nation, does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me that that level of dispersal into a small, isolated rural community isn't fair?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I say to the right honourable gentleman, and he and I have sought common cause on a range of issues on a cross-party terms over the years. I'm proud that on that central issue, we have seen a reduction in net migration of 82% over the last 23 months that we've been in power. We cannot have to grip this problem and then in ensuring that people are detained most often so that they can be removed, saying, not in my patch. Now, I don't know the detail of his circumstances, and of course the Immigration Minister will look at it, but we have to be honest about what the British public expect us to do on their behalf.
Morales, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the government's willingness to take tough action to protect young people online, reflecting growing concerns about the harms that can arise from online platforms, including self-harm, suicide and poor mental health. The consequences can be truly devastating for those affected, including families in South East Cornwall whose experience I will never forget. Individuals and companies are promoting and profiting from harmful material and behaviour online that would rightly affect far greater scrutiny in the offline world. Freedom of speech must be defended, and currently what we have online is often not free speech, but manipulated speech. Companies with influence over what millions of people see should be held accountable and made responsible. So does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me? And what further action will the government take to strengthen accountability and protect young people online before more lives are lost?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I agree with my honourable friend 100%. I thank her and know that she's worked closely with families affected by harmful content in her constituency. Our decision to ban social media for under 16s is a landmark moment which will ensure we better protect children and young people across our country. We will absolutely hold platforms to account for the harms that they can cause, and that's why we've also asked Ofcom to review their capability to enforce the social media ban and to publish a clear enforcement strategy.
Christian Jardine.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Earlier this week in Westminster Hall we had a debate on brain tumours, brain cancer, and the inequity of the service across the United Kingdom, highlighted by my constituent Archie Goodburn, a Commonwealth swimmer who will be competing in Glasgow next month, but only got the treatment he needed after I approached the government and the government supported him. So will the government look at how we ensure people in all parts of the United Kingdom, regardless of devolution, get the best possible treatment for cancers?
Prime Minister.
Well, there's a new target. 75% of patients diagnosed from 2035 will be cancer-free or living well after 5 years, and that means 320,000 lives will be saved. The cancer plan will end the postcode lottery on cancer, introduce a new 3-year neighbourhood early diagnosis fund, and cover the cost of travelling for cancer treatment. I know the Minister's happy to meet with her to discuss further.
Chris Spence.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Deputy Prime Minister and others for their comments about Jo Cox. Our thoughts are with her family today, as they are every day. Can I also thank the Town Park volunteers who I joined this morning in repairing the iconic zigzag bridge in Harlow. Harlow is going to be a site of one of the government's new youth hubs, another example of this Labour government investing in our town. I believe passionately, Mr Speaker, that Harlow's young people have so much potential. Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me and agree that this funding will unlock that potential?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend? As a former school teacher, I know how much he cares about this. I'm delighted that we've announced locations for 180 new youth hubs, including in Harlow. It means more young people across the country will benefit from skills and training opportunities. And this week we've shown that this Labour government is working to transform the lives of our young people. I thank him for all his campaigning on behalf of his constituency, and I know a lot of the young people support Spurs.
That completes questions. Let the front bench change over. Can I just say that Punchforder do come after urgent questions? What I would say is today is a very important day. This is about Jo Cox. This is about bringing us together. This is about unity. And I hope that we have more temperate and tolerant language and respect for each other. And I would say that the Jo Cox great get-together is taking place at lunchtime in Speaker's House. Urgent question, Andrew Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Aerospace, automotive, Formula One.
That's the question, then we get that, and then we come back to your speech.
Ask the question. Just
ask the question.
Urgent steel tariff. Urgent question on steel tariffs, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, may I start by giving the apologies of the Minister for Trade, who is currently in Turkey negotiating further trade deals for British industry. Mr Speaker, on the 19th of March, the Government set out the UK's plan to introduce a robust new trade measure from the 1st of July. The measure will limit tariff-free steel imports compared with the steel safeguard measure. Any imports above these levels will then face a 50% tariff. Protecting primary steel production is crucial to the UK's critical national infrastructure and defence. That's why we've published a long-term plan for steel, and we're introducing a new trade measure countering the unprecedented and damaging effect of global overcapacity. It's simply wrong that only 30% of the steel that we need in the UK comes from the UK. Steel is essential for advanced manufacturing and engineering, and the interests of the domestic steel sector and downstream industry are best served together. A thriving steel industry strengthens supply chain resilience for downstream businesses and limits their exposure to global supply shocks. We need to balance the need to protect domestic steelmaking whilst maintaining secure, reliable supply chains for downstream businesses. Imports will remain important. The Government has engaged extensively with businesses across a range of sectors, including manufacturing, when developing this measure. Indeed, last week I held a round table with downstream industry with my right honourable friend, the member for Rhondda and Ogmore. We and the Secretary of State also heard from several colleagues about the concerns facing businesses in their constituency. We are listening carefully to companies throughout the supply chain as we finalise the measure. We've introduced a transitional arrangement under which the new measure will not apply to goods under contract before the 14th of March 2026 and imported between the 1st of July and 30th of September 2026. We've introduced a carryover mechanism to give importers more flexibility, and we will review the measure after 12 months to ensure it remains fit for purpose. We're engaging intensively with the European Commission on our respective steel measures and are working to find a bilateral solution to protect vital UK-EU steel trade. This engagement reflects the unique structure of our trading and security relationships and the interconnectedness of our supply chains. But we need to be clear. If we do not act, then we will not have steel making in the UK. The US, Canada, the EU are all acting. We must too.
Andrew Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for that statement. Aerospace, automotive, Formula One, the construction sector, manufacturing businesses employing 300,000 people who use steel, all being impacted by Labour's botched tariffs. Now, many of the specialist steels, and I think that the Minister may have heard this as I have from manufacturing businesses, are not, as it stands, even produced here in the UK. That's a real issue, for example, in categories 14 and 27, used in aircraft wings or in defence applications that we need to make ourselves safe. For defence companies with cost-plus contracts, the tariff on steel makes that are not made here will just get added to the bill for the Ministry of Defence. Will the Minister listen to Stephen Morley, President of the Confederation of British Metal Forming, who says the UK risks accelerating the decline of its manufacturing base rather than preserving it? Or Simon Boyd from Reed Steel, a British steelmaker, when he says these measures will kill off downstream customers of steelmakers in the UK. I'm sure that is not the Minister's intention, but with just 2 weeks to go, it is time with respect to stop listening and to start acting. So will the Minister answer 3 questions? Will he confirm today that the measures will not be applied retroactively throughout the whole of the life of existing agreed contracts? Second, will he exempt steel, especially in categories 14 and 27, that's simply not made here in the necessary volumes? And thirdly, will the government, after listening to industry, please delay these tariffs for at least 6 months so that they can get this right?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and very much in line with your guidance earlier about constructive debate. I'm sure we will have some constructive debate here, because the Shadow Minister has raised some very legitimate questions, and I'm very happy to provide the answers. I think we all recognise the importance of the steel industry and the downstream sector. There is definitely a point of agreement there. I think on this point of timing, which is a critical point, and on the face of it not an unreasonable request for a delay, I think the important thing to recognise is that our steel safeguard measure expires on the 30th of July. It is not possible for us to extend that. It's lasted for 8 years, and under WTO rules we couldn't extend that measure. So new measures are required. And of course the EU is introducing a new measure on the 1st of July. The US have introduced new measures. Canada have introduced measures. And so if we were to delay our measure, if we were not to introduce a measure, the UK would become the global dumping ground for subsidised steel. We are quite clear about that. That will be the end of our primary steel industry. So something needs to be done. And that's the point about timing. Now, in designing the measures, we've been very careful to ensure that the measures are targeted at those steels that are made or could be made in the UK. However, the categories are quite broad, and so we acknowledge that some steels that aren't made and couldn't be made in the UK could be swept up, and that's the point of the quotas. Since our draft measures were published, we've consulted extensively with industry. I do always listen to Steve Morley. I've known him for a very long time, and I do listen very carefully to what he says. But more than that, we've carried out extensive consultation The Minister for Trade and I have met with the downstream group on 3 occasions. I've met with the Aerospace Growth Partnership, the Construction Leadership Council and many other businesses. And we'll be publishing our final measures in line with our EU negotiations when they are completed in time for the 1st of July.
Chair of the Select Committee, Liam Burke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful for this urgent question. I'm today publishing the committee's correspondence with ministers after the roundtable we held with steel producers, expressing a very high degree of alarm that these measures were not in the right place and thousands of jobs are now at risk. There is a loophole for the import of fabricated steel. Canada and the United States have both moved to close that. There's a question about why we have not made the same steps. 12 months is too late. There are no exemptions on steel products that we don't make, as we have heard. There's no clarity on the use of procurement to drive domestic production, and it would appear that a number of the quotas have been set in the wrong place. So can I ask the Minister to look again at the advice the Select Committee provided and to come back to the House urgently over the next week with some adjustments to help safeguard a brilliant industry with a brilliant future ahead of it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Chair of the Select Committee both for his work and the work of his committee on this, and I do recognise the concerns that were raised in his committee earlier this week. On this point about timing, though, I would reiterate the point that whilst I recognise the uncertainty this causes for business, and it does cause uncertainty for business, it's impossible for the government to announce the final arrangements until our discussions with the EU have concluded, and I'm reliably informed by those people with knowledge of negotiations with the EU that these things do tend to run to the wire. And so whilst I do appreciate it creates uncertainty, we need to wait until that point. But to say that the feedback from industry around quota levels has been heard by government. And certainly we are looking at those quota levels, and that was the point of publishing the draft matters in the first place.
Only Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The steel sector is a vital UK industry. We must support it in the face of numerous challenges, including China's unfair practices and Trump's trade war. But I am extremely concerned about the impact on parts of the steel industry's supply chain if these proposed tariff changes are implemented. We all want businesses to buy British, but that is just not an option if there is no domestic supplier that can meet the grades and certifications that its customers require. Businesses simply cannot buy British and will be punished by new tariffs as a direct result. The specialist steels needed by aerospace, defence and precision engineering are not made in this country in the grades or volumes that those sectors require. And qualifying a new source takes not a fortnight, but several years. The government is having already sufficient difficulty funding its defence investment plan without loading additional costs onto the defence manufacturers. Tariffs on steels not available in the UK will materially damage downstream manufacturers with serious implications for their competitiveness as well as investment and jobs. So can I ask the Minister, what response did he give experts in the manufacturing industry when they warned him about these matters? What conversations has he had with Tata Steels in determining the government's tariff position? Will he remove categories from the regime where no domestic production capability exists, in particular product codes 14 and 27, which are critical for the viability of many aerospace and defence manufacturers? And will the Secretary of State commit today to delaying or tapering implementation until proper mitigations have been put in place?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank her for her constructive engagement on this issue with me over the last few weeks. The nub of her question, I think, is around domestic suppliers and the availability of domestic supply. And as I said, the measures have been designed to cover those steel categories that are made or could be made in the UK. And the particular issue that she's raising here is around speciality steels. And of course, we all understand the position with the speciality steels business in Stocksbridge and in Rotherham is that business is currently going through administration. And it was impossible for that business to compete in the UK whilst there was an influx of subsidised steel. And she asks me about the conversations I've had with industry. Well, I tell her what I said to the Aerospace Growth Partnership when I met them this morning, that clearly you wouldn't want to start here at this point. But this is about choices, and this government has decided that we do want to have a full aerospace supply chain, including our own speciality steels production. And that is a different choice to the choice the previous government made when they were approached by industry offering to co-invest in that site and keep it open, and they rebuffed all of those responses because their view was leave it to the market, let the steel plants close. Well, we are taking a different choice.
Dame Jessica Vaughan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As the Minister knows, I represent Llanwern, who produce galvanised steel. Can I repeat my ask to the Minister to be mindful of the impact of the scale of the allocations for non-EU countries on Llanwern, and can I ask him to continue to liaise directly with Tata and the unions on this?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I am particularly concerned about the allocations for galvanised steel, as she says, particularly given the country's reliance on the Zodiac galvanising line in Llanwern. That's a critical part of our steel and our national infrastructure. It's the only process route that we have to make car, auto body and various construction and coating steels. A lot depends on that plant in Llanwern, and I am considering it very seriously.
Mike Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Engineering firms in Kings Swinford and South Staffordshire are integral to automotive and aerospace supply chains. So how can it be right or in the national interest that the steel that they import and use, they pay a tariff of 50%, but the European producers making those parts with the same steel will pay low or no tariffs?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've just been alerted to the fact that I said the current measures will expire on the 30th of July. It's actually the 30th of June, which I hopefully was correct in the context, but I'm happy to correct the measures. In relation to the specific point raised by the gentleman opposite, clearly these measures are designed to support primary steel production. That is the purpose of the measure. That's what they've been designed for. And it's really about getting the balance right between supporting that level of primary production in the UK and the issues with the downstream steel producers and ensuring that they can get the steels that they need within the UK or perhaps more broadly within the EU as we discuss our market arrangement measures with them.
Antonio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We all support greater production here in the UK, but the details of these tariffs need more work. Black country MPs like myself and my honourable friend, the member for West Brom, have heard huge worries from our downstream industries, stockholders like Amari, fabricators like the Angle Ring, trade associations like BCSA and CMF. Can I ask the Minister to go away and review the details? We need protections for fabricated steel like Canada and the US have in place. Once again, we're seeing projects in receipt of massive public funding importing fabricated steel. We need a detailed look again at the categories and the quotas. We need proper consultation with UK Metals Council members, and we need to look at the detail of this again to make sure it is right and it supports a great future for manufacturing in the Black Country and elsewhere.
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'd like to thank my honourable friend for the strong work that she's done advocating businesses in her area. In fact, across the whole of the West Midlands, there's been really very strong support from West Midlands members of Parliament for their businesses, and quite right too. She may recall from the roundtable discussion we had with the Secretary of State and the Minister for Trade earlier this week, her concerns are being heard and taken into account. I want to reassure her about that. And also, I neglected to mention earlier the engagement we've had with the British Construction and Steelwork Association, which she mentioned, and I want to reassure her that I and my officials are talking to them too.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. So the Minister says that the concerns about fabricated steel are being taken into account. Can he be a bit more specific about why it is that other countries have got protections for fabricated steel in their economies, but we don't yet have any in ours?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I can give a specific example, if that would be helpful. So a number of members have mentioned the specific situation in Canada, for instance. And I have looked very carefully at the situation in Canada, and fundamentally there is a completely different tariff regime there, which would not necessarily be straightforward or legal to apply in the UK. However, I do continue to look at that. But what I would say, and I reiterate the point really, this measure is designed to support the steel industry. If there are other concerns that fall out with that, then they need to be raised and dealt with appropriately.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I add my voice to that for the Black Country members on behalf of Stourbridge, Brierley Hill and Netherton. I'm really grateful to the Minister and the Department for Business and Trade for their ongoing engagement with myself and local businesses. It's much appreciated. But can I also add my voice to that of others calling for a review of quotas? In some places those have been reduced by more than 80% on products that are not currently produced here, and equally the issue of
fabricated products imported not being subject to any tariffs and the impact that could have on local downstream supply chain industries. Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'd like to thank you for a question, but also more than that, thank her for the invitation to visit Stourbridge and have this discussion with businesses in her constituency. I'm very much looking forward to that, so I do thank her for that. Just to reiterate the point that I made about the quotas, the government's published draft quotas. We are engaging in consultation, listen very carefully to her representation and that of others, but the final quotas ultimately, when they are published, will be dependent on that and also the negotiations we're having with the European Union.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm greatly concerned by this. I spoke in the previous bill, on the steel bill, and I raised the concerns of some of my businesses. The Minister rightly said the measures expire on the 30th of June. There's less than 2 weeks to go. Huge amounts of uncertainty, and those costs are, because businesses are having to stock up on that steel, the costs are already going up. I mean, how did the government let this happen? Did the impact assessment not show that there was going to be a huge impact on that steel? And what's going to happen next, really?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. So, as I mentioned to my colleague, the Chair of the Select Committee, I'm very sympathetic to the issue around uncertainty. I think it's a difficult position for businesses to be in. But to be clear, the reason for the uncertainty is because the publication of the final measures is dependent on the negotiations around market access with the European Union, and it is, as to be expected, that those negotiations with the European Union will go very close to the deadline.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. UK steel sector voices and Cabinet officials met to back procurement of British-made steel at Tata Steel Park in Wensfield rather than offices in Whitehall, which I welcome. I also met with Walsall Wheelbarrow, a family-owned business started by Fred Bucker in 1939, the only UK manufacturer of wheelbarrows left in the UK. Can the Minister give assurances that he will look at imported steel that cannot be made in the UK to remain tariff-free?
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. So the design of the steel measures, because the different steel grades fall into quite large buckets in terms of the CN codes, it does mean that though the government has targeted the measures at steels that are or could be made in the UK, some steels that aren't or couldn't end up being caught up in it, and that's the point of the quotas. And so really ensuring that those quotas are in the right place is important, including for businesses like Walsall wheelbarrows. I've slightly lost count of the number of wheelbarrows I've got, but I'll be sure the next one I buy is from Walsall.
Adam Dance. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. From Yeovil's cutting-edge defence manufacturers to Formwood Forge, which makes handcrafted tools in Hinton St George, businesses across my constituency need steel that is currently not produced here. A 50% tariff would be disastrous, so will the Minister commit to attempts for specialised steel grades that are not made in this country at the scale and spec needed for businesses in Yeovil?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. So yes, he and I have engaged significantly around the industrial base in Yeovil. I know how important it is to his local community. It comes back to this point, I think, about steels that are or could be made in the UK, and the issue primarily that he's raising and so many other people have raised is around the speciality steels plant. Now, I'm aware that at the point that we designed the trade measures, we were anticipating a very quick move into new ownership, and that has taken somewhat longer, probably about 7 months longer than we'd anticipated. And so I am aware of that and the concern that that is causing businesses, but what I am unapologetic about is that we will ensure that we create the right market conditions so that the production of speciality steels in the UK is a viable business proposition.
Thank you. Could I say to the Minister, first of all, it's absolutely right in principle that the government tries to defend the steelmaking sector, particularly Liberty at Stocksbridge and Rotherham. Absolutely right. The question is the downside implications for smaller firms, particularly manufacturing firms, like Ansell Hand Tools, Special Steel Group, Crown Hand Tools in my constituency. All have raised concerns that they can't buy precisely the steel they need or in the quantities they need from British manufacturers. That's the challenge that's faced. I know the Minister was doing a lot of work on this. Could he say how he will leave a channel open for further concerns to be raised by these companies if the further measures he's taking don't address their particular grievances?
Can I ask the Minister to keep his responses short and backbenchers to keep their questions on point as well? Minister.
I will endeavour to do so, Madam Deputy Speaker. What I would say to him is I will do exactly what I've done since the day these draft measures was announced. which is engage with colleagues across the House and all businesses. And I hope colleagues across the House will feel that I have endeavoured to do this. We've had cross-party discussions. I've had many meetings with businesses, with trade associations and with individual colleagues, and I'm determined to continue to do that.
Tom Tuckenett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm very grateful. The real rise in the problem with steel is due to the energy price, the input price. Has he had any real challenging conversations with his Secretary of State colleague? And would he look at exemptions for the defence industry as well, as he knows the new Defence Secretary is now trying to balance a very difficult budget? I'm sure he'd be happy to do what he can to help.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank him for making that link to defence. I know he cares about it very deeply, and I think we all do, and that hasn't really come out up to now. On energy, we increased the supercharger rebate from 60% to 90%, as you'll know, and also the British Industrial Competitiveness Scheme is coming into force from next year, but will be refunded for this year as well, and that will affect many of the downstream businesses. But really the crucial point about defence is, I believe we need to have the capability to make aerospace deals in the UK. I'm sure he does too, and our measures are designed to ensure that happens.
Speaker, the imposition of tariffs on black-painted steel band and zinc-painted steel band, products which are not manufactured in the UK and are therefore imported from the EU, and the scrabble for quota at the beginning of the year will increase costs for our steel producers and seriously impact on the cash flow of importers. So will the Minister do everything he can to look at these tariffs again and make sure that these particular tariffs and quotas do not go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The issue that she raises, and I know she's raised with me previously, is I think primarily related to the Category 4 products. We heard, of course, of the importance of that in Llanwern from my colleague earlier, but I'm very concerned about Category 4. That is one of the areas I'm looking at.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Northern Ireland manufacturers, indeed metal traders, who rely on those specialist grades, including stainless steel box section, are already impacted by EU tariffs, so the additional tariffs being put on by this government will have an adverse effect on those manufacturers